What if your strangest memories weren't dreams, but recollections of something you were forced to forget? Alien abductions have always been treated as legend. But what happens when victims describe the same details, the same lights, the same beings, the same sensations in opposite parts of the world? In this video, you'll discover 5 of the most terrifying and documented alien abduction cases, real stories with medical records, police investigations, and traumas that persist for decades. Stay until the end. The last case involves a massive spacecraft following a commercial airplane, and it was all recorded on radar. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on the bell, because here, the truth might be far beyond what the eyes can see.
The Betty and Barney Hill Case, USA. New England. The couple, Betty and Barney Hill, were driving at night on a rural road when they saw a bright light in the sky. At first, they thought it was an airplane, but the light began to follow their car, and soon it was hovering above them. Barney stopped the car. He grabbed binoculars and saw something impossible. Small beings with huge eyes watching from the window of a craft. The couple panicked, and then a total blackout. When they woke up, they were miles ahead, confused, with their clock showing 2 hours unaccounted for. Days later, the nightmares began. Betty dreamed of medical exams, needles, and a circular room filled with light. Under hypnosis, both described the same scenario: abduction, physical and mental experiments, telepathic communication. A striking detail: Betty drew a star map shown to her by one of the beings. Years later, astronomers recognized the pattern as the Zeta Reticuli constellation, something not publicly known at the time. Barney's clothes had inexplicable marks. His shoe was scratched. Both showed signs of low-level radiation. The case was investigated by ufologists, psychiatrists, and even the military. It was never fully debunked, and to this day, it's considered the first documented alien abduction case in the USA. Would you trust your memories if you discovered some of them were intentionally erased?
The Pascagoula Case, USA. Mississippi, 1973. 2 co-workers, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, were fishing at night on the Pascagoula River when they saw a bluish light descending slowly from the sky. Before they could react, a paralyzing hum filled the air, and 3 strange figures emerged from the light. The creatures were metallic, with arms ending in pincers. Their bodies floated, and the 2 men were levitated into the craft, unable to resist. Inside, according to their account, they were subjected to examinations. Calvin only recalls an injection and a sensation of distorted consciousness. Charles, more lucid, described sensors scanning his body and a voice in his mind saying, "You will not be harmed." Hours later, the 2 reappeared on the riverbank in shock. They went straight to the police station, and the most shocking detail came next. The police recorded their conversation while they were alone in the room, and what they heard left them in panic. Both were terrified, with trembling voices, describing the events in exactly the same way, as if they had just lived a real nightmare. No contradictions, no attempts to fabricate. The audio became an official document. Calvin fainted during interviews. Charles underwent hypnosis and a polygraph, and passed both. For decades, skeptics discredited the case, but in 2018, new witnesses emerged, including a former military officer who confirmed seeing the object on radar that night. Today, Pascagoula has a statue commemorating the event. What would two ordinary men have to gain from such an absurd story? Or was it not absurd at all? Would you have the courage to fish at night, knowing something might be watching from the sky?
The Vilas-Boas case, Brazil, 1957. Minas Gerais, Brazil. The young farmer Antonio Vilas-Boas, only 23 years old, was working at night on his tractor when he saw a red light in the sky approaching. The light descended, revealing an egg-shaped craft. Antonio tried to flee, but was captured by small beings with large eyes and metallic helmets. He was taken inside the craft, and what happened there would become one of the strangest accounts in ufology history. Inside the craft, Vilas-Boas was stripped, examined with metallic instruments, and had his blood drawn. But the most shocking moment came later. He claims a female entity with pale skin, blonde hair, and feline eyes entered the room. Without speaking, she forced him into a sexual act. According to him, the purpose seemed clear: genetic crossbreeding. After the procedure, the entity pointed to her stomach and then to the sky, as if saying, "You are now part of something up there." Antonio was returned to the farm hours later with real physical symptoms: dizziness, vomiting, burns on his body, and skin rashes. He sought a doctor, and lawyer Olavo Fontes linked to UFO investigations in Brazil. Exams confirmed exposure to radiation, something unlikely for a simple farmer in rural Brazil at the time. For years, Vilas-Boas maintained his account. He never sought fame, he never profited from the case. And he died standing by every word of his story. Skeptics mocked the story for decades, but international ufologists now recognize the case as one of the first and most detailed accounts of abduction involving reproductive interaction. An encounter or an experiment. Would you accept your genetics being used by a species you've never met?
The Night of the Humanoids, Italy. In the small village of Torrita di Siena, Tuscany, a night in 1978 was marked by an event so absurd that even investigators couldn't deny it. Dozens of residents simultaneously claimed to have seen intense lights, humanoid beings, and in some cases were taken by them. It all began with a power outage across the village. The night fell into an eerie silence, broken only by a hum in the sky. Then came the lights, not one, but several, hovering over houses, fields, and roads. Multiple witnesses reported the same pattern: beings with slender bodies, large heads, and black eyes, observing, and in some cases, entering homes. But the most disturbing part was the report of multiple abductions. 3 different families said they were taken to white rooms where their bodies were analyzed and images were inserted into their minds. Destroyed cities, other planets, and even warnings about Earth's future. These people had never spoken to each other before. Their descriptions matched in details they could never have invented together, and all reported a feeling of control during the contact, as if their wills were being guided. Local authorities tried to hush the case, but Italian ufologists, along with international researchers, documented over 40 direct testimonies, with medical exams showing temporary changes in brain chemistry and sleep disorders. The village of Torrita di Siena was never the same. Many moved away. Others isolate themselves at nightfall because something descended from the skies that night and took much more than memories. Would you trust your mind
if it contained memories you didn't put there?
The Flight 1628 case, Alaska. On November 17, 1986, Japan Airlines Flight 1628, a Boeing 747 cargo plane carrying French wine, was flying over Alaska. The commander, Kenju Terauchi, a veteran Air Force pilot, noticed strange lights ahead of the aircraft. Within seconds, those lights turned into two massive crafts flying alongside the plane. According to the pilot, the crafts were the size of an aircraft carrier and seemed to toy with the jet, changing positions and emitting heat he could feel in the cockpit. But this was no hallucination. The U.S. military radar confirmed the presence of an unidentified object the size of a building following the flight. The control center tried contacting other aircraft in the area, but only Flight 1628 could see the objects. After over 50 minutes of pursuit, the crafts suddenly vanished. What followed was even stranger. The pilot was grounded by Japan Airlines. The military denied the case, but documents leaked, and today they are officially released. Kenju Terauchi never changed his story. Even decades later, he repeated, "They were there, they were intelligent, and they knew we saw them." The case was studied by ufologists, physicists, and government investigators, and no one could debunk the radar, audio recordings, or the account of a pilot with 29 years of experience. If something so massive can fly beside us and vanish when it wants, what else is watching us just above the clouds? Which of these cases do you think was real? Comment your theory below. Do you believe in abductions, or do you think everything has a scientific explanation? Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and follow our investigations into humanity's most unsettling mysteries.